United Way a year ago, so to many of you, I've not worked with you directly in your field or area of practice. I'm relatively new to your sector. I worked for the City of Calgary for close to 10 years, and actually that's where Louise and I first met each other, when you were with the Drop-In Centre and I was with the City of Calgary. And Louise and I worked on a project called This Is My City in 2010. And some of you may remember that project. It was a project where we brought together 37 different arts and culture organizations with organizations serving the homeless citizenry in our community to share and tell their stories. And it was an 18-month-long project that fundamentally changed my life and fundamentally changed how I view our community and what I see in my community when I walk around. A couple of weeks ago, I was at Imperial, and many of you know that this is United Way's fundraising campaign season, which means we get to go out and about and listen to a lot of different people. And wow, where'd they get that photograph? I don't know who does this stuff, really. They call me the COO, by the way. Uh-oh, like that. Like, uh-oh, what's going on? But a couple of weeks ago, I was at Imperial, and we had a conversation with some members, colleagues from our Calgary Police Service, and we were actually talking about poverty and talking about visible signs of vulnerability in our community. And I was with a staff sergeant and a couple of beat officers from Calgary Police Service down at the Imperial campus. Have any of you been down there? The Imperial campus down in the Deep South? That was like incredible, right? Anyways, we had a great morning, and we had over 120 employees from Imperial. And at the end of the presentation, someone said, what can I do to make a difference? What can I do to talk about what Diana Cressy was talking about this morning? What can I do? And we really started to talk about personal, small acts of kindness, just being kind in our community. And one of the things that I learned working with you, Louise, was just looking people in the eyes, and right, and saying hello, and having a conversation, and not being afraid to have conversations. We're all people. So, which really brings me to our Community Hubs initiative. And Reg, you said something this morning. I'm really blessed right now to actually be spending quite a lot of time with Reg and Rose and other elders as we're learning our own way at United Way to become better allies with our Indigenous community. And Reg said something this morning about the environment being life and life being the environment. And I really increasingly start to think about our work in Community Hubs as really being through that lens. And a place-based approach to working with people in community, in neighborhoods where they live, allows us to actually help shape the environment or respond to the environment in a different way. So I'm going to run you through a brief presentation here, and then I'm going to tell you a story. What are Community Hubs? So a number of years ago, we started down this road of starting to understand how United Way could actually be a contributor to this issue, and not just through funding alone, but through really convening and bringing different people together to talk about the issues that matter. And what we know is that poverty, as you know, is clustered in certain neighborhoods in our community. And 1 in 10 people struggle to make ends meet, and 1 in 3 residents live in poverty. So living in neighborhoods with high levels of poverty can negatively impact, as you know, life expectancy, physical and mental health, early childhood development, and overall quality of life. And United Way is really interested and committed to working in preventative ways in community. So what we discovered in our research is that many people just don't even know what supports and services are available, or even how to access them. Anyhow, in this survey, we found that the use of community and social services was lowest among the lowest income households. And in 2009, 40% of lower income Calgarians reported being lonely, compared to 16% of higher income Calgarians. So we started to talk with some partners, many of you, about what it is that we could kind of do about that. So no Calgarian should be disadvantaged because of where they live, right? So if these are the things that we know, high levels of poverty can negatively impact early childhood development, physical and mental health, life expectancy, and overall quality of life. What are we going to do about it? So we, like all of you, are part of the Enough for All poverty reduction strategy. And in fact, we are a co-funder of the initiative with the City of Calgary, and actually just had a meeting on this past week. And the Community Hubs initiative is really one of our core commitments at United Way to actually help drive the Enough for All strategy forward into and across neighborhoods. And we've done something that's really unique here in Canada, and again, it's circles, because it is circles of circles and networks of networks that makes all of our work function. And we've been able to actually build this Community Hubs project working with neighborhood residents, working with the City of Calgary, working with the Rotary Club of Calgary, working with individual philanthropists and ourselves to actually convene in 6 tipping point communities. And we're pretty pleased and very proud of this unique approach to this work. And the Rotary Club have, just as an anecdote here, the Rotary Club have been so excited when we launched the Village Square Community Hub earlier this year. They were so excited, and they're actually starting to talk about this project with their Rotary Club members, not just here in Calgary, but with Rotary Club all across the country, to see how they can continue this conversation of Community Hubs work and how they may be able to accelerate this type of an approach in other communities where the Rotary Club is equally strong across Canada. And that's really exciting and very powerful work. This reminds me of Dallas's dance. Right? And this is really about networks of networks. So we talk about Community Hubs as being a place where people can go to, that's not just a community center where you can go for swimming lessons, not just a library, which is also a community center. But this is really a place where people can take a preventative, proactive way of engaging with families and individuals to help mitigate factors that can lead to homelessness by increasing social inclusion and economic participation so that we can contribute to building stronger, more resilient people all across our community. So this gives you an idea of the type of folks that we're working with in this Community Hub scenario. We're working in 6 communities, and I'm going to read them so I don't get it wrong because it's still kind of new. Sonalta, North of Gignac communities, Vista Heights, Bowness, Village Square, Greater Forest Lawn. These are the communities that our data showed us were tipping point communities, right? These are communities that without some kind of prevention or intervention, they could in fact tip into places that we don't want them to tip into. So I want to tell you a story here about the power of the Community Hub, and this is the power of the Community Hub that's emerging in Sonalta. And one of our key partners in our neighborhoods are our community associations, in addition to many of you as agencies who are frontline serving agencies in service delivery. So I'm going to tell a story. On June 5th, a fire started in the building under construction in Sonalta. Some of you may remember this. The fire spread and damaged a couple of adjacent buildings. As a result, 11 families found themselves temporarily homeless and without any belongings. Most of the displaced tenants didn't have tenant insurance, and most were newcomer families who spoke very limited English. This included 3 families who were Eritrean refugees and had been in Canada less than 2 months. They lost all of their possessions. The city's emergency management agency and the Red Cross were on site and supported the families with short-term, up to 72 hours, hotel stays and food vouchers, but that's when their organization's services ended. The developer wanted to do something to support these families and reached out to Councillor Evan Woolley's office the next day, who connected them with the Sonalta Communities Association, who happens to be our Community Hub partner. The 3 groups met that day and decided to organize a GoFundMe campaign as part of their planned Neighbor Day celebrations a week later. Together, the team brought in partners and raised over $7,000 at Neighbor Day, which they then dispersed directly to the affected families. Each of the 11 households received checks to cover some of their immediate needs, around $600 per household, and a follow-up check was actually given in the fall as well, because people continued to participate in the fundraising. In the meantime, the Community Association were connecting these displaced residents and realized many additional supports were quite urgently needed. And they didn't know how or where to access supports after the initial 72-hour response period. So they called us. Our Sonalta Hub coordinator raised the issue to our Hub's project manager, who then made the initial connection between the Hub and a mobile basic needs referral program. So in the weeks following the fire, this mobile response team hosted bi-weekly sessions at the Sunalta Hub, where trained staff could connect with families with any referrals those families needed. As the crisis wore down, the mobile team still visits the hub for 3 hours a week to provide needed food bank referrals, emergency rent supplements, and/or utility support so families can avoid costly disconnection and reconnection fees. This mobile program is funded by the city, is operated by the Community Resource Center and a community social worker, and Sunalta Community Association and our Hub's coordinator are on site to help facilitate the families' connections with the outreach workers. So this is really hands-on work. Jen, our Hub's coordinator, told us the story, and she asked me to emphasize that there isn't one thing that the Hub did. It was dozens of informal linkages that were sparked by the fire that led to the community's ability to support these families in their times of crisis. From residents acting as translators to help Jen communicate with the families, to a staff member of the Red Cross who spent dozens of hours volunteering that none of the families fell through the cracks after the initial response, to the developers stepping in to offer their financial support, to the dozens of community members who contributed to the Neighbor Day campaign. It took everyone formally and informally providing supports to create this caring community response. So here's kind of an interesting thing that happened as a result of all of this. 2 of the families have stayed very connected to the Hub since the fire. In fact, they've become members of the community association, and they started volunteering, organizing, and attending events to actually create greater connection within the Sunalta community. So through a disaster, people who had really no connection to anybody in the community ended up finding a way to make that community truly their home. So for us, this is a really good example and a very recent example of the power of a community hub. So this slide kind of shows you what some of the key features are and features Sunalta. So we're really looking to create gathering spaces where neighbors can simply connect with one another. And I remember when Louise and I were working on the This Is My City project, one of the citizens who was living at the drop-in center at the time said to me, you know, Beth, what's really necessary is I just need a place to be a person. I just need a place where I can go, where I don't have to be processed. I just need a place where I can go to be. And for us, one of the big power and privileges of the Hub is to simply provide that space. The Hub, as you've heard, also provides access to supports and services and resources, and each Hub actually has its own unique combination of those types of services and supports based on what the neighbors and the residents in those communities are telling us through ongoing engagement series. So the Hub in Sunalta will look quite different from the Hub at Village Square, will look quite different from the Hub in Forest Lawn, and quite different from Vista Heights or Bowness, as it should. The needs are different. So we also know that the Hubs are a platform to spark community development activities. Some of the activities that are going on in the Hubs are around learning about job searches. We actually are running technology programs in some of the Hubs, teaching people how to use technology, some people for the first time. In fact, there was a gentleman at Village Square Hub who we had a technology workshop, and he learned how to use a laptop and he learned how to use Skype. And for the first time, he was actually able to communicate with his son back home in Pakistan, and was able to see his grandchildren, and he hadn't seen them for 4 years. And he wrote a beautiful letter thanking the volunteers who were running those technology programs, thanking them for reconnecting him with his family. So we also are engaging residents in planning and designing and implementation of the Hub, the programs and the services, the look, the feel of these spaces as we go along. And these are the communities that we're focusing on now. We have a $7.7 million fundraising goal. This is supported by fellow Calgarians, all of this activity. And through the generosity of the people that I've mentioned previously, we're at about $5 million towards our total fundraising goal. And and people are quite excited and interested and continue to reach out to us to find ways in which they can participate in the development of the community hubs through their time, their talent, or their treasure. So here are the results so far. Over 10,000 Calgarians have been engaged in this process through the engagement process of talking in neighborhoods, communities, meetings, endless coffee chats. What should we be doing? We have over 68 community partners who are working with us right now, and the 4.6, we just got a recent donation, that's why I can tell you a higher figure. So it's campaign season, so it's been great. So those of you who are currently participating with us, and there are many of you in the room who are working with us on this project, I want to thank you very much. And we know that we're going to be able to continue to build out this program and perhaps in other communities across our city. And we know, as we've been hearing this morning, that Calgary tends to take a leadership role in some of these different ways of working. And we, like you and like Diana, are committed to not just talking about collective impact, but working in collective impact. And connecting ourselves and each other is of utmost importance so that we can ensure that we're providing services as we need to provide services to those who are most vulnerable in our community. So with that, I want to thank you very much for your time and your attention this morning. And thank you very much to the Inn from the Cold for your very kind and generous offer to have United Way be present with you today. Thank you.